Meeting coming to order, and I'd like to remind everybody that we are being recorded right now. I would like to turn over the meeting right now to Joe, Superintendent Mastrocola, to introduce our people who will be leading our Pledge of Allegiance tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight we have three of our students from Drake-It who are going to be leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Kayla LaFerriere is a freshman here. She entered from the Drake-It Middle School. She's excited about the opportunity to learn more about the health assisting program and is very interested in joining the swim and softball team. Also, we have Molly Pimentel. She's a senior student. She entered from the Drake-It Middle School. She's enrolled in the graphics program. She's a member of the varsity volleyball, swim, and lacrosse team and senior class planning committee. Also, Taylor Moore, who's a freshman from Drake-It. She entered from the Drake-It Middle School, is hoping to enroll in the cosmetology program. He is a member of the freshman planning committee. I'd like to invite Kayla, Molly, and Taylor to join the chairman and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I have.
Paul's from Drake-It too over there.
Nice job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, roll call.
Mr. O'Hare?
Here.
Mr. Moran?
Yeah.
Mr. Bahu? Mr. Lemay?
Here.
Mr. Booton?
Here.
Mr. Tatsias?
Here.
Mr. Gigi?
Here.
Mr. Espinola?
Here.
At first order of business, I would like to call Mr. Mastrocola, the superintendent of the school, to introduce our this year student representative.
I think I'm gonna pass that honor to you.
Okay. I'd like to introduce Maya Medina. She's a senior student in the cosmetology shop who currently serves as the student representative on the school council and is the captain of the cheerleading team. Maya plans on attaining her cosmetology license and attending a 4-year college to study criminal justice. And I applaud you on that. I'm a retired police officer, and good for you. So would you have the student minutes for us, please?
On September 9th, GLTHS students volunteered at the Duville Senior Center for their annual Stepping Out for Seniors Walkathon and Carnival. Students volunteered to run the carnival games, hand out cotton candy, ice cream, and popcorn, and also provided face painting. The freshman and sophomore class committee will be volunteering to assist with the Merrimack Valley Food Bank's annual pantry raid on September 19th and September 22nd. Students will drop off bags to houses in the Pawtuckettville neighborhood and pick up the donations to bring to the food bank. Class elections have begun. We have a number of students who are running for class officer positions that are excited for the year to start and ready to get involved. Our third annual Homecoming Under the Lights will take place on Friday, September 28th. Student Council is planning to organize a field day and movie after school. We will announce Greater Lowell's homecoming royalty during halftime at the football game and will also welcome back the class of 2018 to pick up their yearbook. The night will end with a dance in the cafeteria after the football game.
Excuse me, Maya? Yep. Would you just please announce one more time, just so I can hear it, because I love it?
Yep.
The third
homecoming?
annual Homecoming Under the Lights. That's all I want to hear.
Awesome. Our third annual Homecoming Under the Lights will take place on Friday, September 28th.
Thank you very much.
Of course. Our annual Canopy Lake Scream Fest trip will be taking place in October. Students will stay after school to enjoy pizza and a movie and then head to Canopy Lake for the night. Athletics. Fall sports kicked off in mid-August with nearly 500 registrants trying out for our programs. Both boys and girls soccer have had strong starts to their seasons. The girls recently picked up a win over league opponent Chelsea, while the boys picked up a good early season win over rival Lowell Catholic. The boys followed that up with 2 hard-fought draws with traditional CAC League front-runners Northeast and Chelsea. Cross Country Opens looks to be one of the top programs in the CAC this year. The team will also be hosting the Kent Relays on October 20th and the CAC League Meet on October 27th. Girls volleyball opened their season on September 4th with a win over Northeast. The girls will look to once again qualify for MIAA tourney play this season. Golf has embarked on the second season in program history as a full-time varsity participant in the CAC. The team hopes to grow and compete in all their matches this fall. The cheer team looks primed to defend their D1 North Regional and CAC League championships from last year. The team returns a number of talented returners as well as several strong newcomers. Football has started out of the gate 2-0, recently downing Minutemen by a score of 38-2 on September 15th. The Griffins will next face longtime rival Shawsheen on Friday, September 21st at 7 p.m. September 24th through September 28th will be homecoming week at Greater Lowell. Boys soccer opens things up under the lights on September 24th with the 6 p.m. start. Girls volleyball will host rival Lowell Catholic on September 26th at 5:30 p.m. And girls soccer will have their turn under the lights on September 27th at 6 p.m. Football rounds out the week by hosting league foe Chelsea in a 7 p.m. kickoff on September 28th.
And that is our homecoming game, correct?
Yeah.
Under the lights.
Under the lights, yes.
We'll be
Kept
no longer in the dark.
Yes, exactly. Maya, thank you very much, and we appreciate it. We know this is a commitment, and we appreciate you coming to help us out and to fill us in, and the people at home
Thank you.
on what's happening here in Greater Lowell.
Of course.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Moore, is anybody on the signature sheet for public appearance?
No, Mr. Chairman, there's no one.
Any school committee communications? Approval of the minutes,
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
seconded? Mr. O'Hare? Roll call?
Mr. O'Hare?
Yes.
Mr. Moran?
Yes?
Mr. Bahu? Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Booton?
Yes.
Mr. Tatsias?
Yes.
Mr. Gigi?
Yes.
Mr. Espinola?
Yes. Report of the treasurer. Approval of warrants.
Move to waive the reading.
Okay, move.
Second.
First by Mr. Moran, second by Mr. Booton.
Mr. O'Hare?
Yes.
Mr. Moran?
Yes.
Mr. Bahu? Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Booton?
Yes.
Mr. Tatsias?
Yes.
Mr. Gigi?
Yes.
Mr. Espinola?
Yes. First item on the warrants are accounts payable warrant for $1,155,297.42. Actually, we waived this to read it, so total is $2,739,543.11.
Move approval.
Motion by Mr., what's your name again? Mr. Lemay, seconded by Mr. Tatsias.
Mr. O'Hare?
Yes.
Mr. Moran?
Yes.
Mr. Bahu? Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Booton?
Yes.
Mr. Tatsias?
Yes.
Mr. Gigi?
Yes.
Mr. Espinola?
Yes. Report of a general counsel.
Good evening, school committee members.
Good evening.
It's good to be here tonight as your official school committee council now, and not just as a prospective council. In terms of my report tonight, I just want to let you know that last week, the superintendent and Jill had put together a very good day or morning for myself, Attorney Sarah Spatafor, who you met back in June, to come and meet all of the key legal people that we'll be working with going forward. It was a good morning meeting everybody. Had some school committee members there that came out, and I think it's really going to be a very seamless transition. In respect to that, the superintendent had gone through any potential legal issues that he thought might be outstanding, what the status of that was with your prior council, and set up a conference call for us to have. That conference call occurred yesterday between myself, Attorney Sarah Spatafor, Mike Long, and Roseanne DePietro. And I think Right now, I would say everything looks good in terms of any matters that were outstanding are going to be wrapped up by your former council. I think all new things we'll handle going forward. I also understand that Elysia St. Florian, who you met a few weeks ago, who is our special education attorney with my firm, she's scheduled to be here tomorrow to meet with your special education director. So that is, the report that I have for you. Really, it was just a way for me to come here and say hello, and again, thank you for this opportunity.
Welcome aboard.
I just had one
Curtis?
question. The matters that you went over with Attorney Long, will he be keeping you abreast as any further updates as they come to?
Yeah, I mean, I believe that's the understanding. The way that we left it with both Attorney Long and Attorney DiPietro is that those matters that they were going to have, they would finish off, but if anything came up or if they needed any help or assistance, they would let us know. So I don't anticipate there being any issue there.
And just as a parting note from myself as a chair, I think I can speak for pretty much everybody here. We're glad to have you on board. And if there are things that arise where that this communication and you moving on and taking over is not seamless, and there is some communication problems, we would hope that you would keep us involved and abreast. We like to be informed. We don't really like to be involved.
Sure.
But we like to know and we like to help. So if there are things that come up that we could help you with, please let us know.
Absolutely, will do. And again, I want to thank your staff. Cheryl was fabulous putting together, all of the documents that usually when you come in that you would need, contracts, things like that, references, things like that. It was great, and I really appreciate it, and I don't see any problem with the transition.
And she's not available.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, report of the superintendent, Mr. Mastrocola.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight I have a few items. First, I wanted to give a verbal discussion on the opening of school and some information. I'll have a formal report on enrollment next meeting, but after October 1st. But I wanted to let the committee know and the general public know, we had a very positive and smooth, organized start to the school year. Obviously, with a school this size, some minor first week, second week, scheduling and busing issues, and I appreciate the patience from our parents in terms of working with us to get those solved. Again, a school this size is going to have that, but I can tell you I'm very pleased with the way we started our school year. A lot of it's good organization by our staff. I'd like to thank Ms. Davis, Mr. Costa, the guidance department, the main office staff, Mr. Burns, for their organization coming in. Also, our new teachers and staff. They've done an outstanding job and have made an impact already in our building. And I'd like to thank all of our teaching staff for continuing to have their focus on students first and teaching and learning as our main endeavor. We also have 2 new administrators who are supporting in our school. I can let you know also that our co-op program has started off very strong in terms of placements right off the bat. And we've had a presence out in the community in terms of workforce development and a new organization that opened up in Lowell called Mass Hires. So we've made a commitment, and it's going to be one of my goals I'm going to talk about next month when I present my goals, that one of the things I intend to do more this year is to get out and to be able to connect with people in the community, to be able to bring in more of these partnerships and such. We've taken a great stance, as you know, due to your approval of budgetary items on safety. We've initiated both physical safety protocols in our building and safety protocols for students in terms of entering, exiting doors where students can go. As you know, you've made a commitment towards cameras in the building and more cameras in the building in terms of having that protocol in place. The fob system for administrators is in place in terms of administrators using that. All staff have an ID that have a fob built into the ID. So they enter doors with the fob in the building, throughout the building. We've taken the precautions, as you see, you might have saw it coming in, The gates are going in within the next week. You might have saw the pads that they built or dug out as you walked in. And actually, I want to mention that our students helped with that project in terms of digging out some of the holes and working with the company. Obviously, our crisis plan and fire drills are in place. We've had one already successfully, more to come. We've also had meetings, obviously, with our SROs, our 2 SROs. And on Monday, I have a big meeting with both the Lowell Chief of Police and the Tingsboro Chief of Police to continue to talk about our crisis plans. Everything's in place to have a successful school year. I want to thank this committee for their continued support. And obviously, the people I mentioned earlier anticipate a smooth start as we go into the school year. Next. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Jim.
Just want to point one thing out. During the beginning of the school year, et cetera, I had opportunity to go to different schools for various reasons. But I have to tell you that all the places that I've been, I shouldn't say all the places, the 4 places that I've been to, schools, I've never seen any school better prepared in cleanliness than our school here at Greater Lowell. I think we're, in addition to the academics, right now, it's a prism right now, and we should keep that up, really. I've never seen anything like that in a while.
Thank you, Mr. Mastrocola. 2 things on some of the things that you mentioned. I have had many feedbacks in regards to the school resource officer, and that seems to be working out fantastic. Engaged, talking to people, and I've had students who are new and students who know the school resource officer from prior, maybe involvement, I don't know, but know them from the community, and also people that have been in the school that have made comments about this school, the new school resource officer. So collaboratively with the resource officer that we have, it seems to be a good add to our staff, and the kids are noticing it, and then I congratulate you on that part. Also on the school coming out and running as a well-oiled machine. I know personally, I'm sure that other members of the committee have had complaints and things that have either been brought to your attention through myself or people calling you guys directly. All those issues have been worked out. They've been ironed out to the satisfaction of the families of the people who have made these inquiries. So I applaud you and your staff, Ms. Davis, and the rest of the staff here that made that possible, and it makes our job easier, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is for information only. Usually you've asked this time of year for a list of the new staff, a spreadsheet of the hires and columns for information, so it's listed there. That's listed our new staff, who they're replacing, their titles, salary, column, step, and what contract they're under.
Question?
Mr. Bowden?
Are these, I thought Arthur Cornelia, it was temp when you sent out a message. Has Arthur been hired full-time?
He's the interim transportation cluster lead.
He's still interim?
You'll be interim, yes. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if this meant
It is
he
something
got that
different.
position. What about the other cluster chair? Is that interim or is that permanent?
The new cluster chair, ELA,
ELA.
not permanent. We've hired a
Okay.
permanent, Catherine Palladino.
Very good. Thank you.
Number 3 on the agenda and coming out is a policy. I received a request from 2 individuals to name certain parts of the building, the facility, after somebody. My assistant was kind enough to pull out the actual policy, which is coming around. These individuals read the policy because it states that they have to file this request before September 15th. They did that. As I was looking at the request and I pulled out the policy, there is a procedure we have to follow. So I'm asking the committee to, one, take a look at this policy, but I'll define it for you. We do have to have a naming committee look at the two requests. From my understanding, the naming committee hasn't been together for a while, so what I'm asking tonight is to potentially do a renaming of the committee. We need a renaming of the naming committee. As you can see from the policy or in the packet, the existing members are listed there. Some of you are listed there. You participated in that, that sheet, or this committee in the past. That was the last time I think that they met was August 2015. And there's different terms and lengths. So what we need here before we can look at the actual requests is put the naming committee together, or put it, get it back together, which hasn't been together for a while. So I'll entertain any way on how to do that. Some of the positions on the naming committee are, by the policy, are appointed by the chair. Some of them are appointed by the superintendent, but I think it's important to take feedback from this full committee on what we may be able to do to pull that together. Obviously, the naming committee would make a decision and come forward to the full committee as part of the policy on the naming of items. So I'm looking for some feedback on how to go forward.
We can get this together. That's not really a big deal. I know when I first started here, that was it took us a long time to put that together. Whether to commercialize and to name and whatever. And from what I've been talking to people, there are some interest of people sponsoring like the football field or something around the schools that we had talked, and that's why that committee was put together. So there's some things that we were talking about. So I don't think we're gonna have a problem with putting this back together. We might have to put some different names in some different places that may not be a willing participant of it, but I'm sure the school committee people, and we could fill in some other people in the other spots, no problem. And I think it's gonna take some time, so let's put that onto people's minds and to, if we have some people that wanna volunteer. And keep in mind that we have also made a motion to start a facilities subcommittee to take care of the outside. So this may play hand in hand with each one of those things. So we can revisit this for the next meeting and come up with a list of people that can replace this and put it back into play so that we can start this with a regular meeting all the time. Anybody else? Mr. O'Hare?
And let me just for informational purposes, and I'm just thinking of some of the names that came up, within the past 15 years or so. But it has not always been the administration that is the group that was naming the name committee, or naming those people that should be named on any given occasion. So this obviously seems to be relatively new, 2 years, 3 years, I don't know, but I wonder if someone could give me some more information on that.
It's 3 years old, and this was adopted by the school committee while I was here. Also, there is some school committee appointments, and there's also some superintendent appointments that are on this committee. And there's a list of bylaws that we have adopted through the whole school committee as a policy for the school on how we go about naming certain things in the school. And that's what you have in your hands right now. So what we're looking to do is just replace or reaffirm the names that are in our agenda of the people that are here on this list so that we can move forward with having an active committee that will look at naming different parts of facilities or commercially having people put their names on the facilities. That's why this came up. All set?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, item
Thank you,
number 4.
Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 4 on the agenda is the superintendent's end-of-cycle evaluation. In front of you is a binder of information. I'd like to go over 2 pages if I can. I know it's lengthy. If you could turn to the first page, which is the table of contents. As you know, this is the annual evaluation. All of you have gone through this before in prior years with past superintendents of the end of the cycle timeline of my goals. As you can see there, the table of contents of this particular binder include a timeline, which I'd like to go over in a second, the performance goals, which we've discussed and went over last year at this time, the end of the cycle summative report, which you're going to fill out. It's your responsibility. And the evidence based upon the 5 goals. All the goals are listed there with the pertaining evidence to it. If I can turn to the next page, which is the timeline, it's actually the second page. Here's the cycle timeline that hopefully we can stick with. Obviously, the due date tonight, I've provided this documentation to the committee. The next is I think probably the important piece is that the committee completes the cycle summative evaluation report and submits it to Cheryl Goslin by October 5th or somewhere around that range. And then Ms. Goslin compiles the data around that October 8th to 12th date. Then it's mailed to the school committee members on the 12th, and then it's discussed through the chairman's voice on October 18th, which is our next school committee meeting. I've seen in the past, if the committee needs more time, that's obviously okay, and we can push the timeline out a little bit. I will probably have my 2018-19 goals next meeting for you to review. And the rest of the packet is the evidence based upon the actual goals. If there's any questions over the next week or so in terms of the evidence, some clarification, feel free to call me. I can clarify any information. If you'd like to meet with me to discuss this also, I'm free to do that also.
Your contract ends when?
August next year.
August 19? Okay. We usually meet as a whole to discuss this. Is that, what is the wish of the body to have a meeting to look at this stuff after we leave tonight, look this stuff over, and then meet as a board?
My understanding is we've met, we'll get this information back from Cheryl so we can review. Am I right, Cheryl? What the other members have stated. So
Once you complete your portion.
we're going to complete our portion by the
then
5th
I
of
will do
October,
the composite with the composite results.
right?
And provide another binder with the composite results, the total, and then what each member's stuff with the tab. And then you would discuss it at the next meeting. If you would like this document electronically, let me know, and I can email it to you so you can complete it electronically.
Absolutely, thank you.
Where is the forms we're supposed to be filling out?
Right here,
I just see goals of evidence.
Ahead of that.
Oh, okay,
right here.
all right.
So if anybody wants it electronically, I can email it to you, so you can fill it out electronically.
Absolutely, please.
Mr. Gigi?
Yeah, what's this flash drive?
Forget that was, I should have taken that off there and I didn't.
Good.
Anybody else have any questions?
No, so
Where is that?
we're gonna,
Under the
first paragraph.
end of
Second.
cycle
Okay.
timeline.
So, I guess at the next meeting, we'll have this in time that we can review everybody else's comments about the superintendent cumulative, and then I think we have time to discuss it at the next meeting, to talk about what we're thinking of the superintendent. I guess one question I have is, at the time, we would discuss, any type of salary increase. Is that what we've done in the past?
That's up to the board.
Is that what we did before, is I guess what the question I'm
And that's
asking?
what I was
Okay.
saying, we don't do that in front of the superintendent. We have a,
Evaluation has to be done in a public meeting.
And
yes,
And if I'm sure, we can ask our school committee, our legal counsel, I'm pretty sure that has to be discussed in public. That cannot be executive session. Because 2 superintendents or 3 superintendents ago, there was an issue whether we went into executive session, and I was of the understanding that that is a public time. Am I right, Counselor?
The evaluation?
The evaluation and the discussion of any type of salary increase.
The salary increase, you could have, if you had an executive session that talked about strategy for negotiations with non-union personnel, that is one of the 10 purposes that you can lawfully enter into for executive session. You could have that where you could discuss amongst yourselves salary. You could then bring the superintendent in and negotiate in there, but anything that comes out has to then be disclosed in public session.
Very good, thank you. So,
That's what I was getting at,
Yeah.
yeah. So we'll have this all available to us for the next meeting. All of us, we set a date when we need to get this back to, Cheryl by October 8th, or the 5th, October 5th. And, she'll compile that information, and then we'll have it available for us for the next meeting. And then, and coming upon that, we'll have to schedule a time to, discuss the evaluation, or we can discuss it at that meeting. If everybody has their things back, we'll put it on the agenda. And, we will then go into, after we have decided if the scores of the superintendent are what we believe we should go forward, then we will go into executive session with the superintendent, and I would assume representation to discuss contracts and particulars with the contract.
very good.
Can I request that it be sent to me electronically?
I'll just send it to everybody and you can use it if you want.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you.
If you wanna do the paper, you can.
So, if you don't do it electronically, it needs to be done, on paper and handed in to Cheryl by the 5th, so that she can compile, the components of the evaluations. So it'll be available on, electronically and on paper in our hands right now. George?
Which judge?
You?
I have no problem.
Okay, you understand, it's all set, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
Okay, and-
next
and-
item?
And the report, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
It's heavy.
Okay, the report of the business manager, business finance office update.
Good evening.
Hi, George.
The first item I have before you is the contract renewal for Aramark, for the food service program. This is the final year that we can renew the contract, and I'm requesting your approval and a motion to vote on that. After this year, actually, probably in the fall, we'll start the RFP process, getting lined up for the next fiscal year. But it can only go out for renewals, total of 5 years. You know, they've been doing good as far as I can see. When I was here, we had good rapport, good performance, and I haven't heard any negative feedback on their quality of food, etc.
I actually have to tell you, I hear kids just raving about the food down there, so it's amazing. Mr. Booton?
You stole my thunder. My son graduated a few years ago. The food was incredible. We are the envy of many other communities, so I think Aramac is doing a great job. I'll make the motion to renew the district's food service management contract with Aramac Educational Services LLC for the 2018-19 fiscal year, subject to the approval by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Desi.
Second? Move, George, will you?
On the motion,
You wanna talk?
boys, a question to George,
Okay, sure.
please.
George, did anything, since you're back in the fold here, did anyone
Did anything stick out at you in this contract relative to last year on the revision?
No, this is, the contract is subject to review by the, DESI every year before we can even sign. They actually, all they're doing is amending the numbers, the costs and the projections. But the contract has been pretty consistent.
The cost to the student is,
We're still holding the prices.
Yep.
And I apologize. The price, I'm not, I don't know if it's.
Did we go up a nickel this year as
No,
we
we
were
did not.
supposed
we
to?
did
Last
not.
year. No, we did not.
I thought we were
The year
supposed to go up
before,
a
a dime
nickel.
or
We've
something?
we've held the price for about 3 to 4 years.
We did go up.
Yeah.
Great.
Is any of the superintendent's salary coming out of the Aramac account?
Wrong-
I withdraw the question.
Wrong school department. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Booton, seconded by Mr. O'Hare. Roll call?
Mr. O'Hare?
Yes.
Mr. Moran?
Yes.
Mr. Bahu? Mr. Lemay?
Yes?
Mr. Booton?
Yes.
Mr. Tatsias?
Yes.
Mr. Gigi?
Yes.
Mr. Espinola?
Yes.
The second item is just informational purposes. Just want to let you know that the books for fiscal year 2018 were closed. I closed them on August 31st. I submitted the financial reports to our independent auditors so that they could start prepping for this fiscal audit, as well as prepare some of the financial documents for the Department of Revenue for when we go to certify the E&D. Right now, we're looking at E&D approaching the 5%, as was discussed earlier. We're getting close, and as far as that, I'm also working on the end-of-year report, which is due the end of this month, and we appear to be on timeline for that, so all things looking good. My third item here is a procurement update. I'm asking the Mass General Laws, Chapter 30B, which deals with procurement laws and regulations. They've increased their thresholds for various sections. Currently, we have purchases under $5,000. We have sound business practices to purchase things. Written requests for proposals, quotes, anything in the $5,000 to $25,000 range, we have to seek 3 written quotes. And anything over 25 is advertising and sealed bids required. That threshold was increased with the change to the laws in 2016. And and the new threshold, as you see in there, sound business practice up to $10,000. Written quotes went up to $50,000 threshold, and anything more than 50 is advertised for soliciting bids. So we just want to update our school policy to be in line with the Mass General Laws. Still following all the procurement issues, regulations, and that's the purpose of this.
Any discussion? Mr. Booton?
I do. Going forward a few pages, the one that has the grid tells you MGL.
Yes.
C3,
Yep.
C30B, procurement of surplus supplies. Under MGL, number 1 of the subheading, defines sound business practice as, and this is for what would be under 10,000.
Yeah.
Sound business practices as ensuring the receipt of favorable prices by periodically soliciting price lists or quotes. What does periodically mean?
Well,
Is
when
it yearly?
Well, if individuals will be going to, you could be calling for pricing, you could, go online, something like you do at home.
Periodically, I guess I'm more, let's do copy paper just as a, we'll go with the analogy. So copy paper, we're ordering copy paper and we're not going over 10,000 a year, which we probably do. But how do we know that our copy paper supplier is reasonable?
Well, that would be a I understand what you're going, copy paper wouldn't be a good example. When we order, we're always out getting quotes every time around.
So if we buy widgets,
Yep,
and we
yep.
buy $8,000 of widgets every year,
Yeah.
and we need $8,000, how do we know that the widgets we're paying for? It says periodically they check with other contractors. What does periodically mean?
Well,
It's a
that's-
very vague word.
It's up to, I guess that would be up to the department
Is
head.
it every
They're
5 years? Is
watching-
it every 10
No,
years?
it could be every year. They have a budget, they're managing
Sure.
their budget. So if they have a certain dollar amount, they want to make sure they're spending it to the best of their abilities. They need to seek, pricing just to make sure that the prices that they're getting are,
But the whole purpose of this is to stop me from having my best friend be my supplier for the widgets. So if I'm the person that's in charge of ordering those widgets, do I wait every 5 years and say, well, every 5 years I go out and check and I do pricing? What's periodically, George? I guess I'm asking
I
that,
guess
wondering
that's
that question.
that would
And if we
be-
don't have a policy,
There's not a specific, I don't have a specific timeline. I mean, that's left to the discretion of the department's heads that are using this money. I can tell you that they're
The
monitored.
word could be used randomly.
that's my point. Could be 1 year, 2 years, 3, 5.
Well,
Well,
I wouldn't say, my opinion would be within the fiscal year,
correct.
randomly, some particular quarter or month.
And I'm
I
good
know
with
it's
that.
not
If-
specific.
So if we go forward with this, I'm gonna make an amendment. I'm okay with everything else I saw in here. I would be okay with opening it up to larger, but I would want that anything periodically, and this isn't for the written requests. These are things for, you get verbal requests. So it's under 10,000. If you're getting 8,000 widgets, I think at least yearly or biannually, it should be required that somebody gets some prices from others. So periodically isn't a vague word.
I would say that is the case. I mean.
Annually? Is annually
yes.
reasonable?
I mean, at every department they're coming,
I gotta tell you, I don't know for sure I can get the answer. I think it's every time. I think every time a department head goes out to get a price, they get a price. I don't think they're relying on the price from last year.
Right.
I think it's every time. Periodically means every time, I think for us. I'm gonna say that's 99% of the time, I believe that happens here. I truly believe that.
So let me just see if I'm getting this. This is a Mass General law.
correct.
I don't know if we could be making amendments to it.
Sure we can. We can be more
So
restrictive.
we could add our own policy to
We
this.
can't go to $12,000 from the 10 that they're
Yeah.
saying. We could say 8.
So
We could always be more restrictive.
there is no mechanism in front of us right now for us to change this. Because we're just making a change according to the Mass General laws. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that what we're doing? We just want to
Yes.
adopt this
Well, that's what I
policy?
was proposing, but I believe.
So can we
is-
add what Mr. Booton wants to this policy on a separate policy?
Of course we
That's
could.
okay, but I wouldn't, you
Counselor?
can be
Or you
restrictive.
can make it direct.
This council right here.
Yeah.
Good meeting to come to, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Mr. Booton has sort of accurately described what you have in terms of the Mass General Law. Think of that as your floor, all right? That's what you have to maintain. But if you want to adopt a policy that is more restrictive, you can go ahead and do that.
And that's my point.
Yeah, the term periodically, that is in the statute, and, we could probably find out if there's been any interpretation as to what periodically means. I'm sure that is actually sort of a vague word and was chosen on purpose.
Probably why they
because
left it there.
They probably left it that way. It's probably because it will relate to how often you're getting these goods. You might not, and again, and I don't know, and I'll leave it to George, there are some goods that maybe you buy very frequently, and so you would want to check. Maybe there are some goods that you don't buy every year, so maybe every year would be fine.
Right, and could I add that your point of trying to make sure that it's done every time, couldn't that be just a procedural thing that we
That could be a
follow?
directive,
And
yeah.
that we send out something?
If we're gonna update our policy, I would want it in writing that we're gonna, when you're bidding up to $10,000, if you're doing it 8 times a year, I think if you're spending that much
Well-
money, you should double check with other quotes.
Well, something like that, it's continuous purchase. Now you're going over the threshold, and if you knew you were gonna be purchasing that amount of supplies
And I
or
would
with
think-
equipment, then you would want to do the written quotes or the bid.
So
Right, it's
I
right
think
up
at least, then I think every time, I think a policy saying every time they go out, because it's under the 10,000 for 1 year, correct?
Correct.
Then I would want it to be done every time, at least get 3 verbal quotes over the phone from somebody and document. It's not hard work. You call up Acme Widget Company, how much are you? Beta Widget Company, how much are you? Alpha, Beta, Gamma? Gamma
There you go.
Widget Company.
Mr. Gigi, then, Mr. Lemay.
Briefly, is it undue burden to keep it the way it is? Because I see the only soliciting sealed bids, that's a little bit more challenging, I guess.
Yeah, that,
Is there a disadvantage to keeping the way it is by workload or?
well, in that respect, yes, it does. I mean, there's obviously more work involved for soliciting bids. So, keeping the threshold at 25, anything that falls under the 50, the new threshold, you'd have to go out to bid. You'd have to prep bid, advertise, cost, preparation, put in the bulletins in the state, as opposed to soliciting just straight out quotes, written
We have a
quotes.
lot of demand for bids over $25,000.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
And then under, now it would be more than 50, and then we cut the workload down.
Right. And I think that was probably the intent when they amended the law.
Mr. Lemay.
I think this is a good dialogue, but I would just really, there's currently no red flags, we're just
No,
going
just-
over this.
It
So
was,
I'm
it
just
was
wondering if
something
it's in
that
the
was,
board's best interest to defer to the superintendent for like a report recommendation, if we could wait. He could-
there's no
or-
urgency.
I don't
I
want to
just,
create a subcommittee or anything, but I
it
think
was
this
on,
could be easily handled. I'd like a little more input if the superintendent needed to get some further clarification or information and report next month. I don't know if that's, if that satisfies.
Second Curtis's motion, or Mr. Lemay's motion,
Thanks,
Oh,
if I need to make a
I would just like to add, just like we just extended Aramax contract for 4 years, we're happy with their services. I'm sure I can find a slab of pizza cheaper than theirs and more expensive than theirs, but the service we're happy with. So having that in mind, we might be paying a little bit more for something that we're buying, but the service might be better than something else's. So I'm not saying that should guide us in what we do with this policy. I take the superintendent at his word when he says that they usually look at the prices all the time, but I think service is something that we need to keep in mind as well. And being a person who takes part in bids all the time, I know that the lowest bid isn't always accepted because that lowest bid might not be the best service for people. So, it's just my 2 cents to put into things. I just think that, if we're buying goods from somebody who provides us with good services, we should keep that in mind as well. So we have a motion by Curtis, second by Ray, to ask the superintendent for a report on, what,
Don't need,
No,
In that
defer it.
report, you let us know how many times we put it out for sealed bids or request for written quotes. Is that unduly burdensome on you?
no, we
Just
just,
for a number?
No.
It's not undoable?
no, we can grab that.
Thank you. And then we can tell if we went to 50,000.
Comparison, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And
Thank
that
you.
doesn't, that doesn't need to go to a
good
vote.
thinking.
did you,
No, we're just deferring it to the next
Oh, okay.
meeting.
I thought there was a motion. Next,
you
George?
good? The last piece I had was communication in your packet. Read, discussing a potential revised budget recap here for your consideration. As you know, the final state budget was approved the end of July by the governor, and with that, there were some positive changes for the district. including almost $250,000 in additional Chapter 70 aid, small $27,000 in minimum contribution increase, and almost $193,000 in transportation reimbursement aid. The net effect is the budget will be increasing to $366,582. The good news is, with the increase in the transportation aid, and some of the minimum contribution adjustments, all the communities' assessments are going down to a total of almost $172,000 amongst the 4 communities. And so the new revised budget would total $44,457,552. I'm asking for your consideration. As you know, it was discussed at the Finance Subcommittee meeting earlier.
I'll just ask one question on
Yeah,
that.
George?
You're talking about the increase by 366,000, but I'm just thinking of one area. Every once in a while, I watch the buses come in and go from here, and we have to pay the buses, for an annual fee. But in many cases, the buses aren't the same type of a bus that you would use normally at Greater Lowell. You're gonna see buses coming through there from Chelmsford and whatever. I don't know whether the use of fuel for each type of a bus, because they come from different areas, are the same. And is there any advantage to, how do we know that we're getting the same dollar value with some of the other buses that we have not contracted for? Now, we have contracted for buses, but they're not necessarily all the same. They're all the same company, but they're different names on them, whatever.
Well, if that's happening, then I'll have to check that, but it's probably, if it is, there might have been a bus down, so they're utilizing one of the buses from a,
It seems to be more on the day situation rather than an occasional bus being down.
check with
And it could be, that the person who drives that bus is available to go do another move at another school, and instead of going to get another bus, they just stay in that bus and come to the school. Superintendent?
Yeah, we have 40 buses that go in and out, both runs, and of course the 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock late buses and such. The titles on the bus, obviously, most of them say North Reading Transportation, but they use buses from other school contracts. There's no financial component involved in this. We'll see a bus that will say the Chelmsford Public Schools, so they use that bus. That bus driver perhaps is doing our run in the morning, leaving, and then doing an elementary run there. There's no financial variation between any of the buses. Of course, the contracts with North Reading Transportation, they provide the service. Some of the buses do say, most of the buses say our name on it. Some of them do say other schools, a few other schools. So just rest assured that there's no financial component of variation.
I think it's great Chelmsford sending kids here, just to make sure we get paid for it.
Well, I guess that's my point, and a good point. Depending on what bus is, if some bus is laying in a garage out in North Reading, and all of a sudden we have to use that, is it the same value, is it the same price for different type buses? I don't know that, but it could very well be, and we might be able to save money there.
Mr. Booton?
I think it's my understanding, and the business manager could answer, the buses only have to be of a certain age. There's no commitment as far as the contract that it needs to say Greater Lowell Tech or anything. It's just, they have to be only so
well,
old.
I think that, again, I don't know when the last time went out for contract, but
If you could check
There
maybe
wa-
for the next meeting and let us know,
I
would that
think
work
they're-
for you?
I
I
don't think
think
they
they-
run it that way. I think I'm sorry, the extra bus is what they're running.
I think initially they had, the name was supposed to be on there. But I know instances when they had breakdowns, an NRT bus might go out there. On some cases, like you say, another town name might be on it, substituting for the route. But that's why I said, the majority of the buses have the school name on it.
Okay.
So do we have a motion to approve the subcommittee's budget revised according to the new numbers from the State Department? Motion by Paul Moran, Mr. Moran, second by Mr. Booton. Roll call, please.
Mr. O'Hare?
Yes.
Mr. Moran?
Yes.
Mr. Bahu? Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Booton?
Yes.
Mr. Tatsias? Mr. Gigi?
Yes.
Mr. Espinola?
Yes.
That's it. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
May I ask a question before you go?
Sure.
On the year-to-date,
Yes.
on page 13, as I was reading through the numbers there. I want you to know I was doing my homework.
I don't doubt that for a minute. Page 13, yes, sir.
Daily substitute.
Yes.
If you just go across, not what it's appropriated, but the year-to-date, says $7,042.95.
Mm-hmm.
That for the first 10 days of this school year?
I'd have to check to see what period that was.
Because, I mean, this was printed obviously last week.
Right.
Or sometime, so,
99.4%.
what's that?
It could,
Percent used, 99.4%.
no, no,
Point.
no, that's the one above it.
Oh, okay. I'm
Daily
0.1.
substitutes is,
You want my glasses?
That might have been, I'd have to
carryover
check.
from last
Right,
year?
it could have been the first payroll of July, they might have picked up some subs that didn't get cut off
okay,
in June.
because,
Yeah.
because to
Yeah.
me, I thought $7,000 for 10 days of
Yeah.
school at the
Yeah.
beginning of the school year
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
it
No.
could be possibly need all those subs, you know what I mean? So,
I believe that's probably the case, I'll check that out.
all right, thank you.
Well, I think, actually, if you look at it, Paul, or maybe I'm wrong, but 340,000, we have 180 days of school. You're looking at roughly $2,000 a day, so that would be 3.5 days.
I know, but I'm just saying, the first 10
No,
days,
no, I'm
the
just
first 10 days of
thinking
school, we
that-
need,
But it's not a
we need
full-
to have substitutes every day, the first 10 days of school.
Well,
Yeah.
we do, it's the, as Mr. Booton said, that's a fairly low number
Yeah, no,
in
that's-
terms of that. There are some medical leaves that have already occurred also, that are
But
in
I-
place.
Mr. Marshall?
You're off the
To
hook.
make it, to short is,
Sorry, Caribbean.
that report is as of the end of August, so that was probably a charge off from the end of last
Yeah.
year.
Okay, all right.
Maybe you can let us know at the next meeting.
Yep, we'll do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll see you tomorrow. Do we have any old business that people want to talk about? Anybody want to take something off of the old business? How about the one man, one vote? We done with that yet?
I wanted to take it off a few months ago, absolutely.
What happened?
A few curmudgeons and take it off, I'm fine with it. Everybody good with removing it?
Yes.
Great.
Any talking about, any other items on this?
I guess the alternative subcommittee, do you know who's on the, do we have an updated list we can get for subcommittees?
Yeah, it's the same list we've had.
Okay,
I'll send it to you.
thank you. I want to get going on that before next year.
The only thing that's gonna be different, nobody had addressed me in asking to come off any of the subcommittees. So I left them because I thought it was pretty well organized. That Paul did a good job, placing people on them, and I think people are happy with their specific skills and what they're doing. The only thing that we would need to add is the naming, to re-advise that, and the facilities subcommittee. And I think we almost have that already, full of, participants, so, that's, it's a good thing, so.
Great.
I'll talk to Cheryl about that this week, and we'll finalize that list and send it out on the email.
Okay.
All right, that's in old business. Any new business anybody wants to talk about? Okay,
Yeah, I
motion,
do. The new resource officers, or the new resource officer, is there a way too much to have them come in? I don't want
No.
to pay
I think it's a
overtime.
Good idea. We'll have them in.
But just so we can get introduced, so we get to see them.
That might be something, that's a good idea. That might
Yeah.
be something that we should do
In the,
regularly, like a
cluster chairs.
quarterly.
I guess the new cluster chairs, if they could come in for people that
Yeah, I
may
had
not know
that,
them.
yeah.
I know one, but not the other.
I was anticipating October, I'll have them both in here.
Excellent.
Because
And
one's gonna be
you,
part of the MCAS presentation.
and you already hit the, my other new business of next meeting, having the numbers, unofficial or official numbers of where we're at.
Enrollment report.
Enrollment
Sure.
report, so thank you for being one step ahead. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else with new business? All right, committee motions, motion by Mr. Espinola, which I will get somebody next to me to take over for me.
Because Fred's here.
Curtis.
You have to
You're the
take over 'cause
secretary, you
Fred's
have to
not
take
here.
over for me.
Okay.
So you have to go to
You can stay there.
agenda. Turn it to the only person motions.
You can have that one.
Yeah, you just have to read that.
Committeeman motions, motion by Mr. Espinola to have the district provide Chromebooks to school committee members, enabling them to receive school committee meeting packages electronically.
Thank you, Mr. Lemay. As we spoke at our last meeting, most, if not all, of the school districts and counselors and town selectmen are going to a new program which inserts Chromebooks, which alleviates the cost of the paper, cost of the manpower to put it together, and as well as the postage to place these things in the mail, to mail it to us. So I made a motion, and it seemed like we had some good feedback in regards to this motion, and I would like my motion to be moved forward to vote on, and if everybody had a chance to think about it and what they thought, if they have anything to add to this before we vote, but I would like the committee to move forward and approve my motion, please.
Any questions on the motion?
Can I
Committeeman
I'd second it?
Thank you.
We need a second, so
Thank you.
I'm seconding it.
Mr. Gigi, did you have a
I was
comment?
gonna second it, I think it's a good idea.
Okay,
And it will be available in a hard copy every month until the committee gets familiar with using the Chromebook and to familiarize themselves with how to use the Chromebook. And we had a perfect example this week that we had to get an email with an updated agenda. And that could have been just emailed right to us and had it as agenda 2, and we could have just used it at that. And it's gonna be just like having this book. It's just, you'll be able to push on the superintendent's meetings, and the same what's in this book is gonna come right up on the Chromebook. I think everybody's gonna enjoy it.
Oh,
Yes,
when you're done,
Committeeman
you all set?
I'm all set, yeah.
Oh, one of
I
you.
had a question,
I thought you were
for
done.
our council. If I put Gmail on there and I include some of my personal accounts, I'm gonna carry the thing around with me all the time. I might as well make it useful for me. Does that then become a public record?
If you have your personal Gmail account on a Chromebook that's distributed to you from the school committee by the school, is that what you're asking? Is that a
Yes.
public record? Well, first of all, let me ask, I'm sure you have a computer use policy here in the district that applies to everyone. I'm sure I have that. I would like to take a look at that. What I will tell you is if you use your personal email to conduct any business in terms of, for the school committee, that will certainly be a public record. Whether or not if you keep it completely separate, I don't believe that would be a public record. However, I would like to take a look at what your policy is, because if you're now using, it's an expectation of privacy that I want to make you aware of. If you're using a computer that's issued to you by the school, that belongs to the school and is paid for that, if there was ever any investigation that ever had to happen, now your personal things are on there, and that could be then subject to review at some time, so I would caution you on that.
Okay, so I have my school account forwarded to my personal account. Is that still, so everything in my regular email is now able to
Your
be,
school account is forwarded to your personal account?
Yes. Or is it only those emails? Or is it everything that's in my,
This is probably a larger discussion that comes into play in terms of litigation and how things would go. And I think what you're asking questions that would relate to if there was ever any litigation. And now you're using your school email that's going to your personal email. If there was ever any litigation and requests for emails, people could then ask you for your personal emails. Now we would, as your counsel, I'd say none of these things would be, we'd have to go through and figure what that is, but that could cause some issues if litigation ever arose.
Okay.
So I always caution people, I tell them not to do that, not to try to link their personal accounts just for that reason right there.
okay.
George, did you have a question? Oh, sorry, Curtis.
Yeah, what's the cost to do this, roughly? I mean, is it negligible? Is it significant?
No, I mean,
Long-term, I think it's in the best interest.
well, the chairman brought up a good point last week, last meeting, about the cost of the mailings and what that's gonna cost over a period of time. I mean, you gotta outweigh the cost of what a mailing's gonna look like to maybe a 3 to 4 or 5 year lifespan of the machine. And yeah, it is cost effective to do it that way, it really is. The ability to be able to do some other things like the superintendent's evaluation and make your lives a little bit more efficient so you can do other things and serve your constituents. Yeah, I think that there's a cost, there's a good cost factor there, risk reward. I do.
Committeeman Espinola?
So, Mr. Lemay, just as a point to Mr. Tatsias, this is what we got this week.
Right.
We got all this week. Not only did we get all this material that is physical, it took somebody some time to put it together. And all of this stuff is generated on a computer right now. And all we have to do now, moving forward, is to hit a button, send it to somewhere, and this is gonna be on it, the contracts are gonna be on it, everything's gonna be on it. More importantly, all of this stuff that we get tonight, next week, next month, 2 weeks, 2 months, 3 months down the road, we'll be able to go back on a tab that will be on the computer and say, okay, let's go back to the evaluation of Mr. Mastrocola. And it's right on your computer. It's not at home in a box like I have all my things. So I think it's more effective. It's more of a, it makes us better managers of the school just by having all of the information available to us. So I believe wholeheartedly that this will pay for itself in a short period of time. But I think the convenience and the accessibility to things for us at the meetings, instead of asking the superintendent to look up this or Secretary Goslin to look this up, it'll be right there on our Chromebooks. And I think once we all get a chance to familiarize ourselves with the program, it'll be something that I think everybody will be happy with.
I think we could do this as a test. If we decide in 6 months that, I'm thinking the agenda would be something we should be able to get. I like it mailed because I always make notes in it. On a computer, it's not gonna be easy for me. I'm sure it's gonna come in a PDF format instead of a Word document that I could mark up.
I think you
I
can
think
mark
we
them
can-
up.
You have to have special software, which I guess we could get put on. I don't know what the cost is for all those, but I think it's something we could test it, see how it goes for 6, 8 months, even 3 months until, 4.
Until my new desk is at the State House.
Yeah, and Then we can send them an email from the Chromebook and say, we're not using these anymore. You know, we can try it, we can test it. I don't think it hurts anybody, and we could save a lot of money for the district.
It's definitely worth a shot.
Committeeman O'Hare, did you have a question?
No, I don't.
Do we opt out if somebody doesn't want to do this and they keep wanting to get a mailer? Do we give that option to the members?
That was my motion, that it would still be an option for somebody to get it physically,
Oh, I
if they wanted
apologize.
to.
Okay. Great.
Covers all bases.
That would be something that you, it's just like getting copies of the meetings.
Yeah.
Some of us do get copies, some of us don't get copies. It'll be something that you can ask, Cheryl, I'd rather have my stuff physically instead of on a Chromebook, and we'll work from there.
All set? Madam Clerk?
Mr. O'Hare?
Yes.
Mr. Moran?
Yes.
Mr. Bahu? Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Booton?
Yes.
Mr. Tatsias?
Yes.
Mr. Gigi?
Yes.
Mr. Espinola?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Motion to adjourn.
No,
Report of the subcommittees? We have any other reports other than the,
we just have to
The
approve the
Approval of
minutes.
the leave?
The minutes from the legal search, August 23rd subcommittee.
okay.
Motion to approve?
Motion
Second.
by Mr. Booton, second by Mr. Lemay.
Mr. O'Hare?
Yes.
Mr. Moran?
Yes.
Mr. Bahu? Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Booton?
Yes.
Mr. Tatsias?
Yes.
Mr. Gigi?
Yes.
Mr. Espinola?
Yes.
Now, we can adjourn.
And we welcome you again to our community. And thank you very much. You've been quite helpful tonight already as well. Thank you. We have a motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Moran, you have something?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Moran, seconded by Mr. Tatsias.
Mr. O'Hare?
Yes.
Mr. Moran?
Yes.
Mr. Bahu? Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Booton?
Yes.
Mr. Tatsias?
Yes.
Mr. Gigi?
Yes.
Mr. Espinola?
Yes. Oh, meeting adjourned.